We're talking under your roof. You know, it's one thing to know a lot about what somebody does. It's a whole nother thing to know about more of who somebody is. Okay, hey, we're back. We are under your roof, man. We said, we're coming back with season 2. We've been teasing this room for at least the last month, talking about kicking this thing off. We've had a great, fun first go-round. Have no idea what we were doing. I don't know. I still don't know if we do.
No,
but
not at all.
We keep running into people that are like, man, I watched this thing, and it's kind of fun. I'm having fun with that. Cameron, you're having fun with that.
Having a blast, but I am surprised that people like this.
I think they do. I don't know. So
I think they like the people that we've talked to, not
for
us.
Sure. Yeah. So no pressure.
Just focus in on that.
So we have
welcome, Chuck.
We have Chuck Smith with us, and we're going to dive in. The premise of Under Your Roof is we believe that you are most of who you are inside your home. We're joking around. Our wives are all going on a women's retreat this weekend, and so before we click record, it was, what are you doing tonight? We all have daughters, and it says we're I've always said, get everyone out of the house, and you're at your home by yourself, and you're going to be the most of you, and so that's kind of that's where we want to go. It's some people know Chuck through some circles we run. There's some of you watching this, you've never met Chuck Smith a day in your life. Chuck's the owner of F3 Printing and Apparel, and they just celebrated, I want to say just 5 years, but really it's almost 6.
It was April 6 again. So.
Yeah. So, he's not new at all to what he's doing. I've always heard that to be in business, you have to have a 2-year learning curve and a 5-year stick and stay to even say if you're really in business. This brother's in business. So we're going to talk about a little bit of that, but that's not really what we want to get into. We want to get back into the whole, man, tell us about Chuck. Chuck, you just let it rip, man. You were born here, man, in Abilene. You were raised here, moved away. Just tell us a little bit about you.
I don't know that I'm really that exciting.
We're gonna make Chuck exciting.
I was born here a long time ago, and my dad worked for the phone company, so we moved around from place to place, and so they took us to Lubbock, and then to Amarillo, and then we moved back here, and I went to high school at Wiley.
He's a bulldog.
High school.
He's a bulldog.
You'd like that.
We're going to probably have to strategically bring on some non-bulldogs because of the aura over here coming off of Cameron right now.
No.
You
get me, you get bulldogs, dude.
He'll start fangirling in a hurry over some Wiley bulldogs.
Well, I have an idea that what I'm going to go to next.
Yeah.
Change that because then I left and went back to Lubbock and went to Texas Tech.
Oh,
yeah.
You don't know it, but the room is excited.
Yeah, good. At Texas Tech, I started working for a drugstore called Eckerd Drug.
I remember Eckerd's.
Yeah.
My mom used to lose me there. They'd have to, at Walmart too, they'd have to come over the deal. I swear to you. But we were coached to go to the front to one of the aisles and let the lady know my mom's name is Linda, my name's Zach, and they would literally, boom, Linda, we have Zachary on aisle 5.
Yeah, and he's made a mess. Please come.
This happened 10 times. Anyway, go ahead.
I chose to quit college. I left and moved back to Amarillo so I could manage my own store.
What was the industry at the time in Lubbock or Amarillo? What was it? Clothing still?
No, it was the drugstore.
Oh, gotcha. I lost it.
Had intentions of being a district manager. It was pretty well set up. I had high hopes, big dreams.
Yeah, you're going to be an official drug dealer.
Yeah, and it was.
I knew this, but I kind of forgot.
Legal drug dealer.
And then I met my first wife, and it's amazing how that just changes everything. So I got a phone call from some of my great friends at Athletic Supply, which is very odd that now is the building that I work out of, and he invited me to come back to Abilene and be part of Athletic Supply. So I had. My mom and dad, even though they were separated, they were both here. And even at that time, I think that I had a couple of grandparents left and my whole family, cousins, all from here. So moving back to here was pretty easy.
Home. It's like the Abilene story.
Yeah. It was not, at this point, whenever I met my first wife, she had a 13-month-old son. So at this point, even a kid in that and thinking, why would I want a kid to go anywhere but Wiley?
So pride.
That's right. Once it's in you, it just stays
doesn't go away.
So unfortunately, at that time, Athletic Supply was going through a bunch of changes, and they had sold to a guy that immediately ran it out of business.
Yeah.
And so I started working for a company across town and making T-shirts.
Yep.
Who would have thought? It wasn't probably on any of my list of things that I dreamed about growing up. And
you went from potions and pills to like retail.
Retail. Well,
Is it really?
Not really retail as much as wholesale. Just T-shirts and what all goes with that. Kind of an advertising spectrum, being able to do caps, T-shirts, embroidery, stuff like that.
Anything.
So struggled with working for someone for a lot of years. So 21 years at the other company, and then I got the opportunity to come back to the building that I had worked for at Athletic Supply and open up a shop. So that was Thanksgiving of 2018. Left my job that had been out for 21 years and set out to open my own business and talk about a little scary. That was beyond a little scary.
The risk.
I think that during that time, one of the biggest things that got me through was, besides the Lord, obviously the Lord did, even though I didn't know that I was able to throw everything on him. But there was a song called Burn the Ships that, boy, it would just kill me. And it talks about how, when God pushes you to a new place, that you don't use it as a backup. You don't go back.
Yeah.
And there was such a place in that, because there were so many times that I was just asking, why did I do this? I mean, I had everything that I needed there, and I didn't have to have all of these worries and fears. And he was like, no, you don't go back. You're burning the ships, and this is where you're at. And thank the Lord that led us to this place. And I don't want to say that that means that there's not days now that I'm like, what am I doing? But at the same time, I know that was one of the most amazing things that could have happened to me.
Yeah.
So here we are 6 years later. I mean, what a blessing being able to know that my ministry is while it's different, it's T-shirts, and it's talking to people, and it's being available to do things that I want to do, because I have some freedom that comes with that.
Yeah. Cameron's got something burning.
No, it's funny, because I'll be honest with you. I, for the longest time, had no idea what you did. I thought you worked for the church, if I'm being honest with you. But I mean, there was just, I met you through Zach, but, I saw you speak at my first boot camp, which is a men's retreat through our church. And I mean, just the way that you talk to people, I just thought that that's what you did for a living, man. I thought you were just associated and you were pastor but that's what you do. I mean, you just pastor and minister life to people. And I don't even think, even now that I know you own a business and a shirt company, and I still don't think of you like that. So it's pretty cool. Even hearing your story, you may not know this, but I hear you talk to others if I'm in the area. I always want to hear what you have to say, even if it's not about me. And so it's pretty cool to watch you do that.
Thank you.
Well, and what's fun is, we've said this before, I think somewhere down the road, Cameron and I, we didn't meet until we were both here in Abilene 7 or 8 years ago. But previously, I coached in East Texas at a school that he was a recruiter for the Air Force at the same school. Ronnie Flowers would come to that school, and another guy, I can't remember the other guys, but Ronnie came every year, and they would do our football helmet reconditioning, and we'd see him and got to know him, and I knew him for a decade. Yeah. And Ronnie is the guy that Chuck's talking about when he's referencing Athletic Supply. And it's amazing how there's all these little connectors of people in these different towns, and you all
roads lead back to Athens.
Oh man! Well, they don't lead to East Texas. We get out of East Texas and get to West Texas.
That's true.
No, I'm kidding. Don't hate if you're watching this and you're from East Texas. But anyway, what I want to say to that is, you just said I didn't really know what you did. F3 Printing and Apparel. What you would blow your mind, and you're pretty familiar with a lot of schools because we played the playoff games, and Cameron and I on the side, we drive to all these games and do, idiot like we're still kids. But one of the things we do is we try to name teams and mascots like if we can remember them all. I bet Chuck knows, and we've never even talked about this. I bet Chuck may know more mascots than anybody ever will. But here's why I say that. If we went to F3 Printing and Apparel, I've been on the coaching side of receiving orders, athletic gear, shorts, shirts, all the stuff that you could imagine for every sport. I want to say F3, I know you're not just servicing Texas. How many states do y'all service?
I know last year alone, we printed a bunch of stuff for California. We printed, what I thought was really crazy is we had a big school up in Alaska that we got to do a bunch of stuff for. Mm-hmm. So, we do a lot of stuff for Texas just because that's where we are. And we deal with a bunch of salesmen around here. And it's contract printing. It's not me going out and selling to these guys.
I was going to say there's partnering in other ways, but the bottom line, the press hits the shirt at F3 Printing and Apparel and goes out, and even like who knows how many states, but come back. I was in there one day and it's like, this is going to Allen High School. This is going to South Lake Carroll. What are you shipping stuff to? In my brain, I knew Chuck was in the t-shirt world. I thought we were making shirts for Clack Middle School, Mann, Wiley, in the Abilene area, Albany lines. Here we go. I know. But I just had no idea. Like you have got a massive operation, and it's not just schools, you do things. And I know we've worked together, starting to do some stuff more exclusively for different people in some unique ways. Like there's some things you are willing to, think outside the box and do. And it's really awesome, man. And it is, and it's a ministry. There's people that work there. You talked about family though. So let's t-shirts off the table. That's not who you are. It's what you do. Man, you mentioned, in my previous marriage, she had a kid, and now you've got Shelly, and you have been married for how long?
This year will be 19 years.
Second marriage, blended family. Y'all have a kid. She had two kids.
I had two.
So 4 plus Bella, 5. So there's a lot to discuss here. So much so that there's no way we're going to get all that just with you. We're going to bring Shelly back on mid-season. So as you're watching this, you are going to get the best half. I don't even like to say better, the best half of Chuck.
Absolutely.
Sometime as you keep following along, and so we'll confirm if any of what he's telling us is true, and B, we'll just ask her, let her do all the talking. But I know them well, and we're just great people and a lot to unpack. So. But what's the blended family? What's been tough about that? What's been great about it?
I think more of what was tough about it is words like that didn't really exist. It was all this is a new battle that so many people didn't know anything about. And I'm not saying that just because people know about it now and they have words for it makes it easier. It's definitely not ever easy. But just learning how to walk through that, there's so many things that you run into. Our oldest is Brittany, and she's gonna love this. She's gonna turn 30 this year. So,
wow.
So
that means you're getting old.
No,
it does.
Not quite the opposite. So she was Shelly's oldest, and then Tristan was my oldest, and then Dylan is just 6 months younger than Tristan, and then we had Kylan.
How old were they when y'all got married? They'd had been 6 or 7?
Well, no, Brittany was 10.
That was close.
And Dylan and Tristan were both 9, and then Kylan, I think, was 4.
Yeah.
And so then we had Bella, a couple of years later.
What was that like for the two that were closest in age coming into a family together? What was that like?
Well, it was more of an aspect of the two boys. The boys thought that it was the greatest thing in the world. It was like, instead of having a sleepover, it's all the time. We get to live with my best friend. One of them was on the top bunk, one was on the bottom bunk, and then, that honeymoon stage wore off. And it was like, why in the world did you do this? Brittany and Kylan were 6 years apart, so Brittany thought, this is so cool to have a baby sister. and Colin thought this is so cool to have an older sister. And then before you know it, that wore off too. So, it was really cool. And there was a place that they really loved each other. And then there was a place that they really hated each other.
Yeah. They talk about that now.
They'll get together occasionally. I mean, what we go through now is we'll have seasons where we'll have a relationship. So somebody will bring somebody into a meal, and it's like we're going to do everything we can to pick on them. You remember when you were 12 years old and you did that, and so it's more
Get off my case, Dad.
done. Yeah. Well, it's not me mostly. It's mostly the brothers and sisters doing that. Yeah, Colin talking about how she used to get locked outside, or Shelly talking about how during the summers the phone would ring constantly, and it's always about he did this or she did this. So it's come a long way. We've had struggles even as they're older. I mean, there's battles that having older kids is. I jokingly say they talk about terrible twos. They should be talking about terrible 22s because it's such a
Thanks
place.
for the hope. The shot of hope.
Yeah.
It's such
I've got a 12 and a
there. 17,
and that's what everybody says. Nothing gets easier.
Well, it doesn't, because at least when they're 2, I mean, you're in control. I mean, it feels like that maybe that you're not, but you can at least tell them what to wear and make sure that they're to a place on time. When they're out on their own, the amount of love that you have in your heart for them doesn't change. They're just
Proximity.
not there with you. It's they're out doing their own thing. And so you're like, why did you do that? But then you realize that I was young and stupid once, and I had to learn my lessons, and that's how they're going to learn.
Yeah.
Is by, unfortunately, sometimes screwing up.
Yeah. Letting your kids fail.
I'm in the middle of that right now.
I'm looking at you through, Chuck, and I'm like, what's your take?
I mean, we're a blended family too, but Macy was 3 years old when I came in the picture, and there was no other siblings. So I think our relationship was more me trying to step into a role that she didn't have.
But in Fresh, she's off in
She's off to college
land.
now. Yep.
You don't have control.
No, but it's kind of funny because like last week she called me. She's like, "Dad, I need money."
Go get a job, sis.
Yeah, right. I was like, well, how much is in your account? She's like, $20. I mean, how'd you let it get that low? But anyways, it's little things, I laugh because they get older and they get more expensive. I think that's, so the challenges are still there. They're just different. But today she called me out of the blue, which is usually me calling her, cause I'm the one that misses her. Mom's like, yeah, whatever. But
is that why you were late? Here,
no.
Oh, okay.
But she called me this morning. I'm like, oh, she's like, I just wanted to call and talk to you. I'm like, oh well, that made me smile.
Did you let her talk, or did you start talking?
Oh yeah, I let her talk, and she was just telling me about class and school and all that stuff. So I mean, it was just kind of a reminder that all right, maybe I didn't screw up too much throughout raising her. At 3.
So both you guys have blended families, and I don't know the statistics, but if you're watching this, whatever platform, if there's a way to comment in here and you have a blend in your family, whether you grew up in a blended family, you're a part of one, you've been around, just let us know. I mean, I think that's a way we can connect. I love to do that because we're bringing Shelly back on, and I'd love to have that kind of a part 2 of that conversation of her perspective, and it'll give us a chance maybe to visit with some of you guys about that, because I can tell you he's very humble and he won't say this, but they've done this very, very well. It hasn't been because it's been easy. It's just because him and Shelly have done it together. And I know this because there's a lot we could talk about in marriage and different things. Again, we'll wait. But I've seen that probably, and I know Chuck and I are great friends, a lot like Cameron and I. You're your biggest enemy. You'd beat yourself. I could say all the 10 things good about Chuck, and immediately he's going, well, this and this. But that's kind of what happens, And so, but that could be you too listening to this. And that's the thing is as we're unpacking some of these stories and getting to know each other better as a viewer, like we want this to be valuable for you. And so, man, you're not alone in this, and there's ways to connect. There's things I'm not going to throw those out there here just yet, but there's ways to help with this sort of thing. Get community in these areas. it has come, like you said earlier, there's words to it now that there weren't, but there's also a realization that like, hey, there's way more people that have a family like that than you would ever imagine. Like it's a lot. Yeah. And so, man, hats off to you guys for doing it through the hard and doing it well. We'll get more of the story. Control. Let's talk about that. So now it's just Chuck, it's just Cameron, it's just Zach. I can't control.
What's control?
They're 22. Oh, you don't have control issues, do you?
What is that?
So, like, unpack it a little bit. I know we all struggle with it to some level. I don't know that I've met a man. I mean, there's passivity is a whole nother side, but yeah, man, I struggle with not being able to have it done the way I think it should get done.
Yeah.
What do you do with that? You don't struggle with that.
No, I've never had a problem with that. I don't know. I think about it a lot. I am very good at what you just said. I am a classic overthinker. Thinker. That was really hit there.
Yeah.
Wow. Thinker.
You went Amarillo West,
Thinker.
and then you came back through
came
Lubbock and
back
went
real
Abilene.
fast.
I hit it all right there.
You hit D there for a second.
You hit all I-20, man, all the way up.
I am a classic overthinker. Was that better?
That's better.
Great.
Yeah.
And most of the time it's not, it's a lot less on what somebody else does wrong and me trying to figure out in my head why they wouldn't want to do the same thing that I've done.
Yeah, right. In what way of thinking would you not think like me?
Would you not see that
are
this
you
is
an
the right
idiot?
way?
Like, am I the only person that
So I hope that I do that with grace. I don't know that I always do, but sitting and thinking about things like that, I'm pretty quick to bring myself to a point of saying, I did this wrong and I did this wrong. And a lot of times it causes me, I mean, I feel like that in conflict, I'm pretty good about being part of conflict resolution is owning what you did wrong. And even if you're a 2% and they're a 98%, I'll grab a hold of a whole 50 and say, well, I'm sure this was my fault, but sometimes that's hard too, because then sometimes I feel like
all I ever do is apologize
and I let people walk on me.
Yeah. Right.
And I think that I'm trying to get better at that. I'm trying to understand more of that. So, I like to be in control.
Yeah.
I like that.
I like it, but I've grown accustomed to not really thinking I do, because in a career in the military, you don't really have control. You're just doing what you're told when you're told and how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And that you talk about control, especially in your family life. When me and Megan met and she was a single mom, it was really easy to forget that there's another part of Macy that I've got to worry about for probably the rest of her life, and that was the other parent.
Right. Absolutely.
And really, the controlling part of me wanted to do things my way, but at the end of the day, there has to be, there's other parts of that. Like, this is not just a me, Megan, and Macy thing. This is a me, Megan, Macy, and the other party thing that we've got to work together. And, unfortunately that didn't work out the way that I think we wanted it to. Macy would argue that was probably the best thing for her. That's always something that we had to fight, whether that was spiritually, whether that was mentally, whether that was financially. I
love how you say was like you've conquered it.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, 100% we did. It was, me and Megan have always been. The relationship with Megan and Macy's father was never the best. She was a teen mom, had her when she was 17. And so that was a rough little go there. And she had a relationship with her dad that he refused to talk to Megan really, unless it was just picking up and dropping off. And then finally, when we moved here, there was one night where I walked into Macy's room and we had given her a phone and she had texted her dad and she was bawling when I went into her room. I'm like, what are you crying about? And Megan was working at the mill at the time. Shout out to the mill.
Was she really?
Yeah. Finishing her degree. And I walk in, and she's probably 8 or 9 at the time.
Yeah.
And she hands me her phone, and there's this giant text message to her dad, written like a 9-year-old would do it. I mean, it's long. Basically said, "I hate you. I never want to see you again."
Ouch.
And I'm like, oh crap. So I'm blowing up Megan, be like, "You're about to get a phone call from dad. Like, be ready." And ever since then, he has not been a part of her life at all. And now, and me and Megan have always said, we're never going to talk negative about the other parent, regardless of what happened. That's something that Macy's going to find out on her own. She's going to make her own decision on the investment that she allows as she grows older. And now she's perfectly content with her life and with me. And it took a long time for me and her to get right. But I mean, I think she's kind of made up her choice. She's an adult now, and that's just
so. I have an older sister named Angela. She's 5 years older than me, and she's a half sister. My dad had a previous marriage. They had her, and then he became a single dad. And when I found out that she was my half sister, I was probably 8 or 9. I had no idea, and it's never even been a thought, really, even still today. But now here we are. I'm 45. She's 50. She's gone through a divorce in the last couple of years, and she's not just in the last couple of years. On this part, she's reconnected to her biological mom to some degree. I don't know. We haven't talked a whole lot about it, but a little. And, it's so good that y'all are choosing the choice you're making of, like you said, we're not going to say anything negative because you just never know what that's going to look like 10, 20, 30. I mean, I'm talking, we're 50 years down the road, and that's starting to happen. And I've seen that happen in some other families, some good close friends of ours that we know. And we even talked about it with, Byron and Stacy Stevenson were on here. We talked about Stacy reconnecting with her dad. And each of these stories are very unique in that they've got different circumstances that play a part. But the commonality is there's restoration in the family and there's redemption in some sort of way. And so that's the hope, but also it's great for a young kid like that to be able to not keep that thing bottled up. The whole time you were talking about this, I was looking at that bottle thinking about, maybe it came out in a way you might not have wanted to control it to come out, but who cares? It came out. Like, there's something real freeing about not bottling up that pain or anger or, fear or unknown, shame, guilt, whatever.
I hate to say it like this, and Chuck, you probably could relate. It's for years, it was really me trying to sell myself to Macy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And because she still had that connection with dad. I'm Cameron. Matter of fact, I'm still Cameron unless she's talking to her mother, and then I'm dad. So she'll call me Cameron, but she calls me dad to Megan or her sister. And so, but that's how it was. It was years me trying to sell myself to Macy to try to fill a void that she wasn't ready to let go of. Anyway, it was so
constant thought that you have.
Constant. It's hard.
How have you navigated that? The selling of yourself. Do you feel like we've actually talked about this recently in a different way? we have to get in this story, but hey, you don't have to sell this to me. I think the three of us, we're kind of, I'm a natural sales guy. Probably call it sales or entrepreneur. I don't necessarily associate myself that way, but like, if I want to get you to do something, I could probably use the right words to figure out, at least get you to look at doing it. I've watched y'all both do that extremely well, but that's hard inside the home.
Yeah.
It is. It's like, we had different battles of even Tristan. Tristan was 13 months old whenever I met him, and he just, it was forever. You can't battle through thinking that you're going to be able to be everything for somebody. They have to make that choice.
Yeah. Discover their own self out.
And I feel like for him, it took so many years of feeling like he was on the outside looking in. And I told him this, and if he watches this, he's going to hear it and he's going to, but
Dad,
just
you'll get the text.
The truth
of YouTube
of an orphan spirit,
right,
coming out in a way of sitting at a table and saying, everybody probably thinks I'm just Dylan's friend, and being in a photograph saying, I need to stand right by you so everybody will know I'm part of the family.
Yeah.
just the struggle of that, and then you take these other two who, had a dad, and Tristan's never known his biological father. So that I don't know that there was a big battle there in that. Dylan and Brittany have a dad, and Kylan and Tristan have a mom, and my place different. Not that you did this different, but I always tried to. I've always, and I think I catch some grief about it every once in a while, is I've always said, that's your mom. That is your mom. And no matter what happens at the end of the day, that's your mom. And I'm sorry that your relationship is what it is, but remember that she's your mom.
Right.
And in that, there was a place that I never wanted to replace Brittany and Dylan's dad.
Yeah. Cause keep going. There's a thought
I thought, you have a dad. What is my role? And so it caused, I did so many things so wrong. I feel like that Brittany was easy. Brittany has always just been one of my kids.
Yeah.
But my battle with Dylan, was just so difficult. And there's only so many times that you feel like somebody doesn't want to be part of your life till you just finally say, fine, and whenever Dylan and Tristan turned 18, they both went to boot camp.
Yeah.
And
cool.
A lot of ours came out at Camp Eagle on the old basketball court. And we just talked for a little while, and I said I was sorry that I had just quit trying. And he said he was sorry that, he had been that way. And there was a lot to that. And it didn't make everything great. I mean, to this point,
But it kept it from being bottled up.
But it brought it back to a place where we understood each other a little bit better. So I won't say that we did everything right. I don't know. I think that in the long run, there's still a lot of battles to fight.
Yeah. No, and I mean, Zach knows this story, and I won't get into it, but Macy led me spiritually for a while. I mean, my 13, 14-year-old daughter led me spiritually because I just wasn't there.
Yeah.
And after she had kind of battled her own, I mean, and it's just crazy to me that my wife and my daughter, who have gone through 10 times worse stuff than me, were the ones that led me to God.
Yeah.
And it just blows my mind.
Yeah. The kingdom is not always in order, like we think in the world. Usually it's upside down in different direction and all that. And to what you said, I heard someone talk about this not too long ago. Well, somewhere in the last year. I've landed on, I have a wife and 2 kids. We've been married for 20 years. There are 2 kids. And so I had a friend named Efren one time. We were on a trip, and his kid was giving his wife grief. He looked at his kid and said, "Don't treat my wife that way." Yeah. And he gave the kid "that's my wife." And we talked about it later that night, and it made an impression on me. And so I adopted that. I brought that in, and I say that still today.
I do too.
Don't talk to my wife that way.
Right.
Don't treat my wife that way. And what I'm really trying to do is you're trying to plant the seed that they would look for a man that would guard and honor them as their wife someday. You're setting the tone of that, It's like, but in a blended home, that's not maybe always the best route at times, because, like you said a second ago, that's your mother. Yeah. Well, if all I say in a blended family is, "That's my wife," well, there's a kid on the other side that goes, "Well, that's my mom. Who are you?" Mm-hmm. That's real. Great. But so it's a different dynamic, an approach like that. Yeah. And it's something you don't even really think about, but then you go like how powerful words are in the way you, not just seeds that are planted, but that's already there. You're watering it, putting fire on it, not doing it on purpose. I mean, but things to have to think about.
You see it in movies and TV shows all the time where you get into an argument with your stepkid and they're like, "Well, you're not my real mom or dad."
Have y'all seen anything movie wise?
It is.
Would you is there anything out there, like just as we talk blended family, that you think was good, was a resource or anything like that comes top of your mind?
I would say No.
No.
The answer was no.
I was just thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
But-
But then we need to make a movie. Here we go.
I mean, it's every situation is different. It really is. I mean,
I think for us, when we talk about why we were able to make it through without doing it well, I mean, didn't do it well at all, but we laugh forever talking about how we did re-engage without knowing what that meant. And what that looks like is we both came out of bad marriages with baggage, just suitcases full of crap that we carried with us. And we didn't walk right with the Lord. We didn't even at that point do a lot of things correctly. But we knew enough that we had done something that we don't ever want to do again. And and so when we looked at each other and we said, I'm all in, I don't want to do that again, it was like the point, the stacking stones moment. That's the pivotal point right there where we were going to make it because we were committed. And I don't think that I really was able to put my finger on that till we were in Poland this last year.
Yeah.
And it was just like, we've always said we did re-engage when we didn't know what all those words meant, but it really comes down to the point of in re-engage, we say locking all the doors, but that means that I'm not going to say, if you do that again, I'm going to divorce you.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go out and try to find something that's going to replace you. I'm not going to work all the time because I don't want to be with you. I am here and we are in this together. And when you do that, when you grab a hold of that
contagious.
We are fighting instead of I am fighting with you.
Yeah.
Then the kids can't help but see that.
Big time.
I mean, and so we look back and I could get caught up in condemnation thinking about all of the years that I was such a bad example. 2014, whenever I had my moment, my collision with the Lord where I couldn't miss what he was calling me to be. And so that means at that point, we'd had kids that were 18, and I think of, man, why couldn't I have been this earlier? And then I know that that's just condemnation, and condemnation is not from the Lord.
Yeah.
And so his promise is that he redeems that time, and that means that the life that I'm living now, that my kids are seeing who we are now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because of who we are now is changing them for the future. And it's not easy. But
it's real.
But
it's real to them. They've lived it. They've seen both sides.
Yeah.
Yep.
And like talk is cheap.
Yeah.
They get, and so time goes on and they see it. And I can't wait to get Shelly back in here. We got to, we're hitting cut now. We're done. Here's why, because we can keep doing this, but I'm already to the point where I'm ready to start asking her questions. And so you've got to hang with us and come back. We've got other incredible conversations just like these. But man, thank you for like getting vulnerable about the struggle. I mean, this is what we signed up for as a Christian believer, is something that's not easy daily.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not go do what makes you happy all the time. It's not, I mean, it's actually quite the opposite. I'm going to live a sacrificial life, and it's not going to be about me. And I don't always have to be right. For men that struggle with control, or women or whoever, those two statements right there, it's not about me and I do not have to be right, are incredibly difficult to live out. Mm-hmm. But boy, they're powerful if you can somehow get a partner that'll do it with you. And y'all found that. Y'all's wives are way freaking better than y'all. I'm just going to tell you right now. I know them both.
No doubt.
Y'all are just, I'm ready to get rid of y'all. I'm actually meant to bring them two on and me and get y'all both out of here.
I mentioned bringing the wives on.
We will. We'll
You've
do
been
that.
fighting me this
Listen,
whole time.
we have, if you've made this far, we have so many fun ideas to do with so many different walks
We
of
got
life
some
of
awesome people that we're
great
gonna bring
people
on.
lined up to come on. So thanks again, man. We'll do it again.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chuck.